Alrighty guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. We're here with my round 5 tips. I cannot believe it. We're already 5 rounds in to this season. Absolutely crazy. Hope you guys all had an absolutely fantastic Easter as well. And yeah, make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe, and let's get straight into the tips. All right, so another bang average round for me for round 5, 5 out of 9. I think most of you guys would have done better than this. And I need to stop changing my tips last minute. So from now on, what tips I do in the video are the ones that I'm sticking with because I changed a few that didn't work out for me. So first off, Collingwood here against the Brisbane Lions. We all know the Pies unfortunately didn't get up. Brisbane had a great game there. Charlie Cameron 6 goals. So yeah, Brisbane by, 33 points there. On the Friday night here, we obviously know North didn't get up against Carlton. Another tip there that I changed at the last minute, so I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sticking with what I do in the video because, yeah, it didn't work out for me there. Freo, I had some belief in Freo, and I don't think I'm going to get any belief from Freo now until I see them win. So unfortunately, they didn't get it done on Adelaide. Bulldogs, I mean, this is probably my best tip of the rounds and probably one of the best games of the round as well. Just getting up over Richmond here. The Bond had a great game. Bit of wet weather footy as well. Really, really good game to watch. Next up here, St Kilda easily got it done over Gold Coast. It was a tight tussle for the first few quarters, but St Kilda just shown that, you know, this year they are a level above, you know, some of the more average teams in the comp. This Saturday night, the other game, actually a double header, we had Sydney, obviously in that dramatic finish with, I think it was Florent, on the siren, not just falling short with his kick there, and Aliria getting that insane spoil to basically win Port Adelaide the game. The Sunday games, Essendon, pretty easy. West Coast, we're never going to get it done over Melbourne, not with the amount of players they've lost. So too easy for Melbourne. And then on Monday, this one I'm lucky with because if you watch my stream, I actually meant to change this to Hawthorn at the last minute. I don't know why. Stupid now looking back at it, but I forgot to submit the tip. So luckily for me, I did tip Hawthorn because it could have been 4 out of 9, which would have been diabolical. So yeah, moving on to the round 5 tips. All right, guys, really quickly, just before we get into the round 5 tips, I want to shout out my video that I made yesterday. It was the 5 elite performances, stars of the round. It's a new series that I'm going to be doing, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Please go ahead and check that video out. If you do end up going over to watch that video after this, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, let's get into the tips. All right, so here we are, guys. This is obviously the first week of the gather round, so this is going to be interesting, and we're starting off with the Crows taking on Carlton. Crows obviously coming off a very good win against Freo, though I'm not sure how much I should look into that win just because Freo's forward line has been absolutely atrocious. Like, they cannot get a single thing going, and I've doubted Carlton a few times this season, and I'm finished with doing that. So I believe that Carlton will win this. I really hope they don't drop this because last year we've seen this Carlton team drop some of the games we expected them to win. One of those, of course, being against Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval last year. But I'm going to go ahead and say they're just too good now. I'm going to say it's a close one for most of the game, and Carlton, their forward line, get it done by 22 points. Harry Mackay, he might not be playing. Regardless, though, I think Carlton should win this here. Now, as I just spoke about, Fremantle's forward line has been absolutely terrible, and I'm sorry, I just cannot tip them here against Gold Coast. I don't think Gold Coast have been playing terribly bad. They just haven't been good enough to beat, you know, the teams that are sort of going to be fighting for a top 8 spot. Though I'm just really not sure Freo are going to be able to fix their problems in 1 week here. It's in Adelaide, of course, for the gather round, so it's a neutral ground. So then if this was at Optus, I probably would tip Freo, though I think they're going to get it done. I don't know what the form guide is here for the last. Yeah, so Gold Coast won the last one. They've actually won 3 out of the last 5. Though 4 of the 5 games here, as you can see, have been played at Metricon. But yeah, I've just got a feeling Gold Coast will pinch this one here against the Fremantle side that aren't playing very well at the moment. All right, so the next game for that night here is going to be at Adelaide Oval again. And this is Richmond taking on the Swans. Obviously, last year, this was a very good and tight game. With Sydney winning it by 6 points, I believe, and there was a bit of a controversy at the end with a 50-metre penalty not being paid, if I remember correctly. So yeah, Swans got it done by 6 points. But with Richmond's injuries, I really doubt they're going to be able to win this. I mean, obviously, Sydney didn't play great last week. I mean, they played pretty good for 3 quarters and then just lost it in the 4th against Port Adelaide, where I'm not even sure Port Adelaide is still that great at the moment. So there's no way I can tip Richmond over Sydney here. at a neutral venue. Just too many injuries from Richmond, and I think, as I made my predictions video, I think they're going to fall a bit before they rise again. So yeah, Sydney, you'd think would get it done in this one here. All right, so next up here, we probably have one of the more underwhelming games for this round. It is at the Adelaide Hills. Not really sure if we've ever seen an AFL game at this venue. We may or may not have, I'm not sure. But yeah, Brisbane taking on North Melbourne. North Melbourne, has to be said, they've been in some pretty good form. They've made an insane improvement from last year already. They are definitely leagues ahead of where they were last year, and they've got some young guns that are really shining at the moment. Harry Sheezel, obviously, and then the guys like LDU, Cam Zerha, always just putting in the work week in and week out. And Brisbane Lions, well, they obviously got probably one of their best wins for the season so far over the Pies, though it was at the Gabba, and we know they're a very good team at the Gabba. But they're not, that skill doesn't usually translate to other grounds, so to speak. So I think I will go, I'm going to go Brisbane here, because purely the experience and the talent on that list should get them over the line. You'd think even if Brisbane aren't playing their best footy, they will still beat North Melbourne, though I think this could be a close one, and this is one of the ones I could see potentially being an upset here. So I will go with Brisbane, and I think, they've won most of their, so North have won the last, lost the last 5. So yeah, I think that streak is unfortunately going to continue for North Melbourne against them, and Brisbane should get the W here. All right, so we got another game here. This is a double header for this. I mean, not really a double header. That's actually 2 different venues, but I might be streaming both of these games on the Saturday, potentially. And we got Essendon taking on Melbourne here. Melbourne obviously just getting the job done too easily against the West Coast Eagles on the weekend by, I think it was 80 or something points. Honestly, West Coast didn't play too bad for the start of that game, but just, Melbourne, you knew they were going to run over and just steam on home at the end at some point. And on the other end of the spectrum here, we have Essendon, who played a very good game against GWS, who have been playing pretty well as well, and, didn't make it an easy game for Essendon. It was a tight affair for 3 quarters until that last quarter, where Essendon really shown that they are just a little bit better than GWS this year, or in that game in particular. But yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, Melbourne have been in pretty good form this whole season, aside from that one odd game at the Gabba, and I think we might find out that was just going to be a one-off performance for this year. And the form guide does suggest that Melbourne will get this done. And this is really Essendon's first test for this year against a proper top 4 team, a top 8, or even a premiership contender for that matter. So I think we'll find out a lot more about Essendon in this game than we will Melbourne. Hopefully it's a good contest, but I'm going to have to go and say Melbourne get the W here as well. All right, so this next game I'm really looking forward to, and I think this is actually going to be one of the more difficult games to tip this round. Though Port Adelaide are quite heavy favourites here, I'm actually not sure who to tip. I mean, Port Adelaide obviously come off a very scrappy win. It wasn't a very clean game. It was, there weren't many great skills in that game. It was just a whole bunch of hard work for the Port Adelaide, and they just really didn't give up in that game. It has to be said, they kept coming. For most of that game, it just looked like Port Adelaide had no chance, but their streak continues over Sydney, which is crazy. I mean, on the other hand, I think we've seen a very good Western Bulldogs performance against the Tigers. Their midfield seemed to just be clicking. Their forward line looked a bit better, and their backs stood up when it counted. And I think I will go Western Bulldogs here for probably what is going to be considered a bit of an upset. Well, this is interesting. Port have played Bulldogs 4 out of the last 5 times at the Adelaide Oval, and they've won half of them. So 50-50 going up against Bulldogs in the last 5. I personally think what we've seen from the Bulldogs has been more impressive. I know Port's win against Sydney was pretty good. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here in a close one, I think. But hopefully they get the win here. For my tip. So yeah, Bulldogs to get the dub here. All right, so the first game of the Sunday here is Geelong taking on West Coast. Probably one of the boring games for this round, and I think we're just gonna have to go Geelong. Not even gonna drag it out here. Geelong have looked to get back into a little bit of a form, though it was only over Hawthorn. You'd think West Coast are probably even worse than Hawthorn, or around the same level, purely now just because of their injuries. They were actually playing some solid footy for a bit, but you'd think there's no way Geelong get it done here. So, West Coast get it done here. So Geelong, you'd think for an easy win here. All right, so for the next game here is at Norwood Oval. So obviously a neutral venue as well for both of these sides. I'm going to go ahead and say GWS get this done. Hawthorn obviously not bad for a few quarters against the Cats, and it looks like it might have been a crazy upset win for a little bit there. But the Giants, I actually think they've been relatively impressive though they've only won one game this season. They played good for most of their games this season. They were always in the contest, it felt like, for most of it. And you'd think, well, it was a good game against the Bombers for 3 quarters. It was close. They actually got back in front, I think, by the end of that 3rd quarter after being down for the first 2. And Essendon just streamed on home, being the better side in the end. But yeah, I'll go ahead and say the Giants get this dub here. Not really a big call here by any means. They are the favourites. So yeah, GWS should get it done here. And I've been playing pretty solid footy, I think, for only getting 1 win. Alrighty guys, so that brings us to the last game of the season at a very, very late fixture here. And it's going to make me wait a long time to see my Pies play. And I'm obviously going to be streaming this game on the channel, of course, because I'm not going to Adelaide for this. But we, of course, have the Pies taking on St Kilda. And I think, to be honest, out of all these games here, this is probably the most anticipated, or the one where we're going to find out the most about probably St Kilda, where they're at for this year. Are they genuinely a premiership contender? Because I think if they make this game close, or if they win it, they'll definitely be a contender. Maybe. It's still early days. But you'd think, you know, depending on how they play in this game, it will definitely, you know, tell us if they're finals bound or not. You'd think they are at this point. But this is probably the game that we need to see to get that confirmation. Going into this game, the Pies have won 4 out of the last 5. So a pretty good streak against or a pretty good record in recent time against the St Kilda Saints, it has to be said. But yeah, I've got to back in my Pies, and you guys know this, that I'm going to be backing in the Pies most of this year. But I do give the Saints a chance here, because I think me playing pretty good. As long as Collingwood get back on track from where we were a few weeks ago, we should easily win this game, in my opinion. As a biased opinion, I think we are just better than St Kilda across the park. But I said that with Brisbane, and we obviously know how that went. So I'm not going to say too much, though I do think we've just seen more from Collingwood for longer. And St Kilda, while they've had a very, very easy fixture, and they haven't actually played against a side that's a top 8 bounds or a finals contender for this year. So I'll be backing in the Pies. And yeah, that just about does it for my tips. And as a quick recap here, we've got Carlton, Gold Coast, the Swans, Brisbane, Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, Geelong, the Giants, and the Pies. And that wraps us up for the round 5 tips. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to go ahead and check out my last video, I'd really appreciate it. It will be linked in the description, on screen now as well. Go ahead and check that out. I spent a lot of time on it, and I think it's one of the best videos I've made on this channel for a while. Also, make sure you guys subscribe, leave a like on the video, comment down your tips down below, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, and bye-bye.